Welcome to True Crime Cases. Today we are unveiling a shocking story of jealousy and violence. The sheriff's wife, consumed by jealousy, decides to take justice into her own hands and brutally murders teenage girl upon discovering she is pregnant by her husband. Join us as we delve into the disturbing details of this tragic case and explore the deadly consequences of betrayal and rage. Catalea, a 19-year-old with big dreams and a kind heart, was a recent high school graduate from a small town in North Carolina. Known for her bubbly personality and gentle nature, Catalea worked during the summer at the local Dollar Tree, saving money to move to Raleigh, where she planned to enroll in nursing school. Inspired to make a difference in others' lives following her single mother's passing from cancer. Despite her youth, Catalea showed uncommon maturity and took on a caretaker role for her younger siblings Angelina and Alina, protecting them, helping with homework, or treating them to ice cream at the local Dairy Queen. Catalea's life took an unexpected turn when she met Sheriff Peter. Peter, a well-respected law officer in Rayford. They met at a local community event where Peter, known for his charisma and kindness, struck up a conversation with Catalea. What began as friendly chats quickly evolved into a secret relationship. Peter, 41 and married, had a way of making Catalea feel special and noticed like no one else had before. For a young woman who felt trapped in small-town life, the sheriff's attention felt exciting and different. Their relationship grew in secrecy, with stolen kisses and hidden encounters for Catalea. These moments with Peter were like glimpses of a different world, one she both desired and feared. She knew the romance was risky, but the sheriff's attention and the thrill of it all made it hard to resist. In early July 2016, Catalea discovered she was pregnant. The news shook her, bringing emotions of both excitement and fear. She shared her secret only with her closest friends, telling them she wasn't sure what to do, but felt Peter had no. Catalea was torn. She worried about Peter's reaction, her family, and the scandal that could arise in a town where everyone knew each other. Still, she felt her future might be tied to this baby and hoped Peter would be willing to be part of it. Days before her death, Catalea confided in friends that she planned to confront Peter about the pregnancy, hoping he would support her and that they could somehow move forward together. However, she was nervous, sensing her life might change drastically depending on his response. This was a time of deep uncertainty for Catalea, marked by both hopeful dreams and intense fears. The young woman who once dreamed only of Raleigh and a nursing career now saw her life taking a different, unexpected path, one that would tragically end in her death on July 14, 2014, around 8:30 a.m. Catalea's younger sister, 15-year-old Angelina, discovered Catalea's body in the woods behind their home in Rayford. The family's modest home bordered a wooded area where Catalea and her siblings used to play as children. That morning, Angelina went to look for Catalea, who hadn't returned the previous night. She first noticed broken branches and disturbed soil leading into the trees, which increased her curiosity and fear. As she ventured into the woods, she saw her sister's body on the ground, bruised and lifeless. Catalea lay naked with cuts and bruises covering her skin. Shocked, Angelina froze, processing the horrific scene before she could fully comprehend what had happened. After moments of silent disbelief, she ran back to the house and called 911, in her hands shaking as she dialed, barely able to convey what she seen. When paramedics and police arrived, Angelina was sitting on the house steps, pale and visibly shaken, wrapped in a blanket given to her by a neighbor who'd heard the commotion. The scene quickly became chaotic, with first responders securing the area, while other family members remained in shock and neighbors began to gather murmuring about the tragic news. Some mentioned seeing Catalea only a day or two prior smiling and laughing. Catalea's body was officially identified at the scene, and her death sent a wave of grief and fear through Rafford as her body was taken for autopsy. Angelina and her family were left in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the brutality of what had happened to their daughter and sister. Catalea's tragic death quickly became the town's main topic of conversation, especially as it became known that the investigation involved well-known people. Local media, such as the Phil Observer, covered the story as the community mourned the loss of a young woman with a promising future. Police arrived on the scene shortly after 8 o'clock. On March 14, 2014, officers from the Rayford Police Department, led by Detective Laura Adams, a seasoned investigator known for her calm and meticulous approach, secured the area where Catalea's body was found. The scene was deeply disturbing. Catalea's body lay in a small clearing in the woods behind her family's home, marked by bruises, cuts, and signs of a brutal beating. She had been stripped of her clothes, with dirt and leaves scattered around her as if there had been a struggle. There were blood stains on nearby rocks and roots, painting a clear picture of the violence she had endured. As investigators examined the scene, they found clues hinting at a larger story. Among some nearby rocks was a discarded police siren and a bird-burned spoon, which Detective Adams recognized as drug paraphernalia. Although Catalea was not known to use drugs, this evidence raised questions about what she might have been involved in or who else might have been present that night. Upon examining Catalea's body at the scene, the coroner noticed slight swelling in her abdomen, which led to a quick review and a preliminary conclusion that she was in the early stages of pregnancy. This discovery surprised investigators, adding an unexpected layer to the case. Rumors had already started circulating about recent changes in Catalea's behavior, and now the police had to consider whether her pregnancy could be a motive. Police were stunned when a paternity test later confirmed that the father was Sheriff Peter. Detective Adams, along with her young partner, Officer Mark Jensen, known for his sharp instincts and questionable habits, took note of each piece of evidence, knowing that the case would require careful handling due to the sensitive details. As she reviewed the scene, Detective Adams felt the weight of what this crime could reveal in a tight-knit town like Roared, especially with Catalea's secret pregnancy and the sheriff's implication. The police collected blood samples and drug paraphernalia as evidence, determined to trace every possible lead. With the community watching closely, they knew they needed answers, and quickly during their investigation, police focused their attention on Sheriff Peter, a well-known figure in Rayford with an established reputation as a community leader. Peter, 41, had held his post for over a decade and was respected by many for his affable character and quick wit. But when questioned about Catalea, Peter showed signs of discomfort, revealing a more complicated side to his character. Under interrogation, Sheriff Peter reluctantly confessed that he and Catalea had started a sexual relationship months ago. According to him, they met during one of his patrol rounds when he stopped by the Dollar Tree where Catalea worked. Initially, he told police he had been tempted by her physical attractiveness after helping her with minor favors, such as giving her rides or offering career advice. However, as the interrogation continued, Peter confessed the relationship had turned romantic and then physical, describing it as a regrettable lapse in judgment. He also admitted that a few days before her death, Catalea had told him she was pregnant. Peter claimed he was taken aback by the news, and though not excited about the pregnancy, told police he was willing to support her financially. However, as they delved into Peter's Background detectives uncovered troubling information about his past, revealing a pattern. Reviewing Peter's records, police found a series of secret payments made to various women over the years using police funds. He had made discreet payments to at least 5 women with whom he allegedly had sexual relationships resulting in pregnancies. These payments, labeled as miscellaneous expenses, appeared sporadically in police budgets and weren't tied to specific accounts. The transactions raised suspicions among investigators, who quickly realized Peter had been hiding these relationships to protect his reputation. Peter's history revealed a pattern of seducing young women, often vulnerable or in need of guidance like Catalea, and then bribing them to keep their relationship secret. His confession shocked investigators and heightened their suspicions that Peter might be more deeply involved in Catalea's death than he was willing to admit. Peter's evasive answers and casual attitude towards these revelations led Detective Laura Adams and her team to press him further, suspecting that he might have had more to lose if Catalea's pregnancy became public knowledge. The police began considering whether Peter's actions went beyond hidden relationship and payments, wondering if his desire to protect his career and perhaps his marriage were strong enough to lead him to drastic measures. Karen Peter, the sheriff's wife and a well-known figure in Rayford's social scene, was quickly called in for questioning. A housewife known for her sharp tongue and high standards, 40-year-old Karen had been active force in her husband's life and career. However, as police delved into her background, they began to perceive different side to Karen, one marked by resentment, suspicion, and bitterness over her marriage. During her interview, Karen didn't hold back, telling investigators she had suspected her husband's infidelities for years. She mentioned strange stains she had found on the bed sheets and rumors she had heard from townspeople, though she had chosen to ignore them. Karen explained that she had often set aside these suspicions, focusing on her duties as a Christian wife and convincing herself that Peter was common to her and their family. Yet deep down, she had always harbored doubts, especially when Peter's behavior changed dramatically in recent months. She noticed he worked late, without explanation, and became more secretive with his phone. The breaking point came when Karen, as she put it, accidentally stumbled upon a disturbing video on Peter's laptop while cleaning his home office. She opened his computer to turn it off, but instead of his usual files, she found a sex video of Peter with a much younger woman, whom she quickly recognized as Catalea Grace. She only watched a few seconds before realizing what she was seeing: 2 of them engaging in sexual activity in the aisles of the local Dollar Tree. Late at night, Karen described feeling nauseated and devastated, unable to believe what she had seen. Karen claimed she had planned to confront Peter about the video, but before she could do so, she learned something even more shocking. Catalea was pregnant. One of Karen's friends had seen Catalea at a local pharmacy buying prenatal vitamins and casually mentioned it to Karen. Karen quickly connected the dots, realizing that the pregnancy was likely Peter's doing. This revelation left her feeling humiliated and filled with rage, betrayed in a way she could no longer ignore. Karen told the police she had never directly confronted Catalea about the pregnancy, but investigators found evidence suggesting otherwise. That discovered messages on Karen's phone, arranging a meeting with Catalea at the local pool just days before her death. Witnesses confirmed seeing the two together, describing the exchange as tense and intense. Karen was reported to have lunged at Catalea with a pair of garden shears, calling her a ETO who just wanted to, demanding to know her intentions with Peter. This direct confrontation contradicted Karen's statements to the police, suggesting she was willing to go Beyond a private confrontation under pressure from the detectives, Karen admitted she had been furious. She described feeling humiliated, as if her life had crumbled before her eyes. Her emotions were complex, mixing jealousy with anger towards Peter for disrespecting her and fear of the impact this would have on her family's reputation in the community. Karen's statements painted a picture of a woman on the edge, one who had tolerated years of rumors about infidelity but found Cataleya's pregnancy unbearable. The police left the interview with serious doubts about Karen's role in the case, as her emotions and actions in the days leading up to Cataleya's death positioned her as the prime suspect in what was rapidly becoming one of Rayford's most shocking investigations. While police reviewed the scene of Cataleya's murder, they stumbled upon a detail that redirected their investigation in a new direction. Among the scattered debris, they found drug paraphernalia, including used syringes and a small bag of white powder near where Cataleya's body was found, tracing the object's elite detectives to Cataleya's younger sister Angelina, quiet and reserved. 15-year-old Angelina's connection to drugs led investigators to consider several disturbing theories. One theory was that Angelina's drug use had led to a confrontation between the sisters. Detectives considered the possibility that Angelina resented Cataleya's interventions and that this family tension might have escalated into a fatal fight. This idea gained traction as police learned more about Angelina's drug problems, which were more severe than even her close family members knew. Another possibility police explored was that Angelina had debts with her drug suppliers. Cataleya, who only worked part-time at Dollar Tree, might have tried to help her sister financially to cover those debts, though such help would have strained her own resources. Investigators considered that debts or pressure from dealers could have led to Cataleya's death if she had become involved in dangerous territory on her sister's behalf. The police also speculated whether Angelina's addiction might have inadvertently attracted dangerous people into their lives and whether Cataleya's knowledge of her sister's environment put her at risk, making her a target for those connected to Angelina's drug problems. As they dug into Angelina's recent activities, they found messages on her phone indicating that she was in contact with a small group of local drug users, dealers. These messages painted a picture of a young woman who was overwhelmed, trying to hide her addiction from her family while sinking deeper into a risky world. This discovery of Angelina's connection to drugs raised troubling questions about the hidden dynamics within the family and how they might have influenced Cataleya's death. Police now had multiple theories, each implicating Angelina's drug use as a potential catalyst for the tragic events that led to her sister's murder. Investigators needed to delve further into the Cataleya family's relationships and Angelina's secret life before reaching definitive conclusions. In a tense interview room, Angelina finally opened up investigators, revealing shocking details about her struggles and her connection to Sheriff Peter. Angelina admitted she had been secretly addicted to drugs since shortly after her mother's death from cancer at 14. Angelina said she felt lost and alone, turning to drugs as a way to numb the overwhelming pain. Her addiction had escalated quickly, but she managed to hide it from most people in her life until Sheriff Peter found out. Angelina revealed that Sheriff Peter had caught her using drugs earlier that year, and instead of legally processing her, he began pressuring her, insinuating that she could avoid arrest if she agreed to have a sexual relationship with him. At that moment, Angelina felt trapped. She feared her addiction would become public and felt powerless against someone as respected and influential as the sheriff. But Cataleya intervened. Angelina told police that when Cataleya learned of her situation, she was horrified, and protective Catalea, who had always taken on a maternal role since their mother's death, confronted Sheriff Peter and begged him to leave Angelina alone. According to Angelina, Catalea even offered to have a relationship with the sheriff herself if he promised to protect Angelina and leave her in peace. This sacrifice marked the beginning of Catalea's relationship with the sheriff, a dark arrangement Catalea kept secret even from her friends. Angelina's confession left investigators stunned. She described how this entire situation made her feel guilty and powerless. At first, she felt relieved when Catalea intervened, hoping it would end her troubles. But over time, Angelina began to understand the cost of her sister's sacrifice. She watched as Catalea became increasingly distant and withdrawn. Catalea's bright personality faded, replaced by anxiety and secrets. Angelina couldn't help but feel that her sister was carrying the weight of her situation. Police took note of Angelina's distress as she spoke, painting a heartbreaking picture of the emotional toll the situation had taken on her. By the end of the interview, investigators knew they needed to look more deeply into Sheriff Peter's past and the dynamics between the sisters. Angelina's emotional testimony revealed a complex web of relationships marked by manipulation, fear, and pain, highlighting the tragic consequences of their circumstances. As detectives pieced together Catalea's final days, one name kept appearing: Karen Peter, sheriff's wife. Evidence pointed to a devastating sequence of events that led to Catalea's death. According to their findings, Karen had become increasingly disturbed and jealous after discovering Catalea's pregnancy. In her mind, Catalea wasn't just another affair of her husband's, but a threat, a young woman carrying her husband's child, and possibly the key to a scandal that could destroy Karen's carefully built world. On the night of the murder, Karen waited until she knew Catalea would be home alone. Detectives believe she confronted Catalea in the small patch of woods near her house, where they wouldn't easily be seen. At first, Karen tried to stay calm, demanding that Catalea end the pregnancy and disappear. But when Catalea resisted, the argument escalated. Seeing that Catalea wouldn't be intimidated by her threats, something inside Karen snapped. Driven by a mixture of anger, fear, and betrayal, she grabbed a heavy wooden club, an in-case weapon she'd brought, and began to beat Catalea. In her fury, Karen barely noticed the blood or bruises she left on Catalea's body. She just kept hitting, letting out all the emotions she had repressed in a burst of violence. When she finally stopped, she saw Catalea's lifeless body, and the reality hit her. She had gone too far. After the murder, Karen tried to clean herself up, hid the club, and returned home expecting to go on with life as usual. She assumed that as the sheriff's wife, no one would suspect her, but detectives found clues linking her to the crime. Investigators analyzed the club and found faint fingerprints belonging to Karen. They also identified fabric fibers on Catalea's body that matched clothing Karen often wore. On the morning of July 27, 2017, police went to arrest Karen Peter. Detectives arrived at her home early, knocking on her door just as dawn was breaking. Karen opened the door, calmly thinking it was another routine visit. But when they informed her of the murder charge, her demeanor changed. Karen turned pale and tried to deny any involvement, claiming she had been home all night. But under pressure, her composure crumbled. She was handcuffed and led outside, looking down and avoiding the gazes of neighbors who had gathered outside for the Catalea family. Karen's arrest brought both relief and sadness, though they would never get Catalea back. Sister's memory, by helping others facing personal struggles and challenges through her work in social services. Angelina shared her story, using her pain and experiences to inspire others in difficult situations in an attempt to help prevent similar tragedy.